All right, we are back again talking horse racing as usual on our horse racing show. Well, it depends. Hopefully, you've decided to become a Patreon member for our Patreon club. You can check that out in the description area, of course, of our videos on YouTube whenever we post them on YouTube. Of course, this one will be posted on YouTube on Saturday, so that's when you're listening right now or watching our show. It's a Saturday. But keep this in mind, if you are a Patreon member, you can watch all of our shows, all full-length videos, on Thursdays. Only our Patreon members for $5 a month can watch on Thursdays and every week. Sometimes you miss the shows, but we'll post this one on Saturday, just like we have the last few weeks. Chad Summers is joining me. Fresh in his return from Dubai. No John Hardoon this week because we're doing a late show on Thursday. Chad, how was your trip back?
Long 16 and a half hour flight. So it's a long one.
Yeah. And how did things go? How were you? How unsatisfied or satisfied were you with Clapton?
Look, I mean, it's kind of the Ricky Bobby school of thinking. If you're not first, you're last. We given him a month off after the Breeders' Cup, and it was one of those things where it's a building stone. We've had a lot of success on the night on Dubai World Cup night, and we lost the prep race both years before we won. It's just kind of a stepping stone race as we prepare to try and get ready for the $12 million Dubai World Cup. And we have the roadmap and we've been there before. In the moment, it's disappointing. It's a $1 million Group One. You want to win, or at least run second, get beat a nose for second. But we were proud of his effort. Hats off to trainer Doug Watson winning his first ever flat Grade One with a thoroughbred. He's won some with Arabians, but he's been doing this for a long time. So happy for him and connections to get that victory. And we got 2 months to turn it around. And obviously the races are just going to get tougher and tougher with the international horses. Seemingly on their way. We saw Pegasus over the weekend. We'll see some of those horses come over to Dubai, and the Saudi race on February 24th. So, we keep all eyes kind of on the competition, but we got to kind of keep getting better ourselves. Our next race will be on March 2nd, and hopefully we can take that Maktoum Classic victory and come in as a horse with a little bit of momentum coming into March 30th
And where is that race?
in Dubai. They're over at Maidan.
So Clapton is obviously still there then.
Yeah. I'll go back on Sunday.
And who works with you? Who trains him while you're away?
I still do it. I just do it remotely.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know you
Yeah.
could do that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
He heads to the track in an hour. Actually.
Okay. Well, that's right. It's what, 9 o'clock here? So it's what, 9 hours ahead, is it?
Yeah, six o'clock over there.
That's right. It's early in the morning. They're getting up there bright and early. All right. Well, we actually have a couple of viewer comments that I wanted to start off with. Uh, Both of them on our Patreon page. Richard Buckler just watched the replay of Clapton's race, ran very well. And Siggy Mendoza. Uh, would it be possible to discuss the Southwest Stakes plus the Marsha Washington? And by the way, Siggy, just for you, we are going to handicap the Southwest Stakes. Now, the Marsha Washington, I'm not so sure about that. Maybe I'm not sure if you have
Sure,
an
right?
opinion on that,
Yeah,
Chad. But
yeah. Why not?
okay.
Why not?
And also, congratulations to Chad for Clapton's bold showing. Uh, and I also added that the prize money collected on
Yeah,
Friday in Medan talked about the Russian horse, and
yeah.
that's what the horse is, right? This is a Russian horse.
He's American bred. He was actually purchased as a yearling for $12,000 uh, in America, and then made his way overseas. He was 8 for 9 in Russia before coming to Dubai. He won his prep race a few weeks ago, and then won the Grade One $1 million race. So, I mean, look, stories like this are pretty cool. You don't like to be on the other end of the spectrum. I like analyzing it when I'm not involved and I'm
Yeah.
not in the race, and I can be fully vested in the story. But for now, I've been kind of joking that this is the Apollo. What was it, Rocky 3 or Rocky 4 with Ivan Drago? Right. I
Rocky
mean, this
Four.
horse is he's
Yeah.
built like a machine. He goes faster than we do. So We're going to spend the next month chasing chickens and hoping that we get a little bit faster.
All right. We also, I wanted to mention, of course, last week we did actually, no, 2 weeks ago, we did not have an opportunity to talk about Track Phantom's wire to wire win in the Grade 3 Lecomte. And I wanted to mention that, of course, because we have a bunch of Grade 3 races that we're going to talk about. Obviously, these big Kentucky Derby hopefuls. And so, Track Phantom first. We'll start about how impressed were you? Because that was a wire to wire win.
Look, I mean, Steve Asmussen. We talked about it in the preview for it. Is that this is what Steve Asmussen does? He finds these horses and competes, and we'll talk about some more of them in some of these other races that we're going to discuss this week. He's circled in on Track Phantom as his fairgrounds horse. He won the Gun Runner. He came back and repeated in the Lecomte, and he'll just kind of keep up that program. It looks like the Risen Star and Louisiana Derby will be next. He's followed this path before with horses like Gun Runner and Epicenter, and no reason to think that he can't follow suit. Look, at this stage now, you just have to say that he's better than Nash. I mean, Nash continues to get supported at the windows, and Nash very well could be a good horse, but he's just clearly second best behind Track Phantom. I mean, Track Phantom has taken it to him, and he's easily held him off. It hasn't been a situation where they're battling to the wire. So, I mean, if you're trainer Steve Asmussen, who you're the all-time winningest trainer, and you don't have a lot of things left on the mantelpiece on things you need to accomplish, the Derby's the number one on that list. And, whether it's Track Phantom or one of these other ones, he wants to win the Derby. And, I mean, look, we all want to win the Derby. It's a prestigious race. But Track Phantom is certainly trending in the right direction. And this is the time of the year when you want to see it. We'll talk briefly here coming up on a race like the Holy Bull, where we see the return of the champion Fierceness. But Track Phantom kind of has a leg up on him right now because we haven't seen Fierceness since last November, while Track Phantom's been running in December and January and kind of building up that momentum as we look to the first Saturday in May.
Yeah, I've been trying to keep notes based on just the horses that we've talked about, the 3-year-olds that we've talked about on the show, or the 2-year-olds, now 3-year-olds. And the three that I have listed here are Dornoch, who won the Remsen, Sierra Leone, who placed second in the Remsen, and Track Phantom. So those are the three that I know that we talked about on this show.
Yeah, Dornoch, he's getting ready. He's looked good. I actually watched him on the track the other day. He's grown. He's filled out. He looks really, really good as he begins his 3-year-old campaign. Obviously, trying to keep the trophy in the family, being Mage's younger brother. Mage winning the Derby last year, but look, he's waiting. This is a design plan by trainer Danny Gargan to skip the Holy Bull. He feels like the horse ran in December, where like Fierceness ran in November, so give him that little freshening 2 to 3. Kept him in the barn, but tack walked him, backed off him a little bit. 1,000 ways to skin a cat. There's only going to be one winner of the Derby, but he's going to wait for the Fountain of Youth, so we'll see him. I think the race is March 2nd or March 9th or something like that. So we'll see him just about a month time from now by plan. That's been their whole time. And Sierra Leone, we'll see him on February 17th. We'll see him at the fairgrounds. Trainer Chad Brown thinks that long stretch at the fairgrounds is going to play to his hand. We saw him make that huge move at Aqueduct on what was a speed favoring track. So he's going to go over there, and he will have a new jockey that day. Trainer jockey Tyler Gaffleone going to take over the mount for the first time for Sierra Leone.
Okay. And any particular reason for that?
Musical jockeys, musical chairs. It's that time of the year right now.
All right. And by the way, that is March 2nd, same day as the Gotham.
Mm-hmm.
You have the Fountain of Youth at Gulfstream, the Gotham at Aqueduct. Okay, so let's actually, you know what? Before we get into this, I have to ask you, because we kind of teased this last week, and that was Bob Baffert, because obviously we did the show last Thursday. I believe it was last Thursday, Friday. And then we knew that the decision day to transfer the horses to eligible trainers was Monday. So it turns out that he's not transferring the horses. What's going on?
Yes, so nobody transferred their horses. This is, it's kind of interesting. Now, it's twofold. One, there's still a chance that Churchill reverses course and changes their mind, which maybe some of these owners are hoping that they do. But all their owners in a sign of solidarity stayed with Baffert, and nobody moved their horses. So in the past, we've seen some of those Baffert horses get transferred to Rudolph Brissett or Tim Yakteen, um, people like that, and it didn't happen this year. So none of them right now are eligible for points, which means if you're not eligible for points, you're not eligible to win. So we'll talk about races like the Robert Lewis, where Nysos is a heavy favorite, 20 points on line to the winner. If he doesn't win, those 20 points go to nobody.
Yep.
Winstock we'll see in the Southwest as well. And look, Bob Baffert is very much planning on running his horses in these Triple Crown prep races, and it's interesting because maybe this year, because those horses aren't eligible for any points, how many points you need to get in might be less because some of these big money races
Yeah.
get 20 points, 50 points, 100 points, and they're not eligible. They're not going
Yeah.
to get any actual points. So, you're not going to complain about it. If you're not running against Bob Baffert and you're picking up
Sure.
the lion's share of those points, or you run second or third in some of those other prep races where normally maybe you wouldn't have a chance to qualify in the top 20. Now you're going to. And whether you feel like this decision is right or wrong, it's a decision that's been made by Churchill. It's Churchill's track. They can do what they want. It's a private track. And these are the rules that we have to abide by. So, look, I give the owners a lot of credit for having a backbone and standing with Bob Baffert, and knowing the repercussions that come with it. You're only a 3-year-old once. You only get one chance
Yep.
to run the Kentucky Derby, and horses like Muth and Nysos who shown abilities to maybe take it to the next level. Cornell was a nice winner the other day at Santa Anita as well. They're not running in the Derby, and it doesn't mean you can't be a champion. It doesn't mean you can't be a really, really nice horse. I mean, Arcangelo was named 3-year-old Eclipse Award winner this year, and he didn't even think about running in the Derby. So it's not the end all be all. But as far as legacies are concerned, as far as the opportunity to win the Triple Crown, that's by the wayside. And it's interesting because now the one thing we know, because he's not suspended from the Triple Crown.
Yeah.
He's still suspended from the Derby. So now whoever the Derby winner will be, albeit it won't be a Baffert horse, you're going to have King Kong Bundy
Yeah.
waiting for you because you're going to have 4 or 5 Bob Baffert horses
Right.
right now who are already pointing for the Preakness. So they're going to be the fresh horse. While everybody, kind of beats each other up in this rough and tumble Kentucky Derby, you got to come back in 2 weeks on short rest, and Bob Baffert's horse, whoever he is, waiting for you to run the gauntlet. So if you win the Triple Crown this year, all credit to you because Bob Baffert's coming in with some fresh shooters for the Preakness and Belmont. You have to keep that in the back of your mind.
So it sounds like to me, of course, I could be definitely wrong, but it's so from what I was reading is so it was a 2-year suspension. They went to 3. Did they go to 3 because Baffert wasn't? He wasn't keeping his mouth shut basically, and he wasn't giving in and admitting to his mistake, and
Look,
as they gave him another year.
they whatever decision was made behind closed doors, and
Nobody
we're
knows.
not we're not privy to that information. And in the world of social media, where normally everybody knows everything before it even comes out, I mean, Churchill, to their credit, has been pretty good about being mum as to why they've done what they do. Now, obviously, I think they've told Bob Baffert and his attorneys, and if they don't want to share, they don't have to share. It
Sure.
would be nice if they shared because, I mean, at least you just have it out in the open as to who, what, why, when, where, and also as a message as to to make sure that others don't get suspended and follow suit. You don't
Yeah.
want to just not be allowed to compete in the Kentucky Derby. It means the world, and I mean they raised the pot to $5 million, and there's a beautiful trophy, and it's the Derby. It's the one thing. I talked to Javier Castellano about this the other day, who won the Derby this year on Mage. He goes, it hits different once you've won the Derby. If you walk around in an airport or a
Yeah.
restaurant and somebody sees you and they say, "Oh, you were in horse racing," okay. The first
Yeah.
question out of everybody's mind is, "Have you won the Kentucky Derby?"
Right.
And if you can say yes, it means a lot. Look, I can say that I've been in a few of them with different connections, and I finished 17th, and I finished 18th, and I finished 11th. But winning it, only one horse a year can say it. And like I said, I mean, to these Bob Baffert horses, they're not eligible, so
Yep.
they'll never have the opportunity, and they can say I would have won or I could have won, but they can't say I did win, and that's what they'll have to live with.
And it sounds like to me that they're hoping that that maybe that's the reason, and that if he does, because he seemed to be contrite recently, so now they're like, well, is that enough? Maybe is that going to give them enough to change their mind possibly, and maybe it also helps in a way that these owners decided to stick with Baffert because Churchill wants the best of the best, don't they? They don't want these horses not racing in their race.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's you equate it, and like a lot of times in our show, we try and bring in other sports. I mean, it would be no different in college football if Michigan wasn't allowed this year to compete in the playoff. I
Yeah,
mean, they've obviously had some run-ins with the NCAA and different infractions and different investigations ongoing. I mean, I think it's fair to say after the season was over that Michigan was the best team, right?
sure.
And so it would have been tainted if it ended up being Washington versus Alabama
Yep.
in the finals with Michigan watching on the sidelines. And that's where we are with Bob Baffert's horses. Is he's on the sidelines, and he has some horses that might very well prove over the next few months when they get these points for winning these races that they
Yeah.
deserve to be in the race, and they're not going to be allowed in the race. But at the same time, I do appreciate the fact that it's not going to be this kind of baloney situation of, oh, the horse is running in somebody else's name and it's Bob Baffert's horse. I didn't like how that tasted and felt the last few months, even though it wasn't somebody else's barn and somebody else's
Yeah.
saddle pad. It still just felt like it was just like a weird unhealthy feeling. Like I didn't like that. So at least it's kind of ripped the band-aid off. We're not going to have, oh, this horse is trained by this guy, but really, you have the Wizard of Oz behind the cloak,
Yeah.
still training the horse, or even, the thought that he might be training the horse, giving him to a former assistant and stuff like that. So I do appreciate that fact of the matter, is that it's just going to be run the way that it's going to be run, and we'll see where the chips fall over the next few months. We've seen a few of these younger horses, two turning three, some performances. Nobody's really wowed us yet. There's been a couple of good ones. Fierceness, obviously, in the Breeders' Cup was as good a performance as we've seen in a stake race. We've seen some good-looking maidens of late that are kind of tracking on that trajectory, but we haven't seen that breakout star yet.
Nope.
And this weekend, we had Pegasus, and Pegasus was fun for the older horses. Was a good race. Ironically, won by a Preakness winner who was ineligible to run in the Derby because he was in Bob Baffert's barn. But it's one of these things now where our eyes now shift to Kentucky Derby, Kentucky Oaks over the next 3 months. That doesn't mean there's not a lot of big races left, and international races. We talked obviously earlier in the show about the Dubai World Cup, the Saudi Cup on February 24th as well. But domestically, all eyes now are firmly planted on the road to the Triple Crown. We're going to talk about two or three of them here
Yep.
today.
And we'll get started with a couple of races at Gulfstream Park. You mentioned Fierceness, so let's go ahead and start there. The Holy Bowl. So Fierceness, the 3-5 favorite. This is not a race you want to wager, right? This is all Fierceness. You have any reason to believe that Fierceness is not going to win?
No, I mean, look, he ran really, really well fresh first time out. He ran really well in the Breeders' Cup. The Champagne performance, whether that be in a sloppy track, you'd like to think that it wasn't, because he won in the mud first time out. You like to maybe he was rated behind horses. He really never seemed comfortable. They were trying to teach him something new. But look, this has been their plan. They feel like they did things differently with Forte last year, and we're kind of battling some things here. He hasn't missed a beat. He's been training well. All accounts are that he's breezed really well leading into this race in Palm Beach Downs, and he's been the one horse over the course of this 2-year-old, now 3-year-old campaign. He had two brilliant performances: his maiden win, first time out, and then his Breeders' Cup Juvenile win, where he looked amazing on the track that afternoon. I remember watching him warm up, being like, it's going to be tough to beat him, and it was. Not a pushover field. You have some stake winners in this field. You're going to have some scratches. I know No More Time, the 5 horse, is going to scratch for Jose D'Angelo and go to the Sam F. Davis. There's talk possibly that the 1 horse Hades might scratch as well. Otello is 50-50. Dancing Groom's probably going to run. Domestic Product is a horse that we just don't know enough about. He was good in the maiden race, but he was really not that good in the other 2 starts. The horse that interests me, if you're gonna look, and again, it's probably a free bingo square and those rainbow pick sixes and things like that. If you're gonna use one other horse, and I don't know that he's gonna run, he's 50-50. He might end up scratching and going to Tampa.
Okay.
But the one horse Hades was very, very impressive in both races. First time out, he missed a break and was able to come off the pace and win. And then last time, kind of opposite, took it to them early, 1.5 and 46, stretched out to the 7 furlongs, and one going away like a good thing. Granted, that was a Florida Bred Allowance race. It's not the depth he's going to feel. It's not fierceness, but visually, Hades was good the other day. If you had to use a second horse, if you were just adamant that I'm not singling fierceness, you can throw Hades in your ticket. But again, he might scratch one, and two. Even if you like Hades, you're a fool if you don't use fierceness, because there's no reason not to use him, even at 1 to 9 odds. But from a future bet standpoint, he's currently the second choice in the future wager behind all other 3-year-olds. We want to see him make that transition from 2 to 3. But Top Pletcher's horses have often improved from 2 to 3. They've run really well at Gulfstream in the past. All things point to a big effort. And look, Hall of Fame jockey John Velasquez, he didn't go to California this year specifically for this one horse for fierceness. He was able to ride him in the Breeders' Cup. Irad Ortiz rode him early on in his career. Johnny thinks he could take him back to that promised land, and that's the only reason why John Velasquez, I think, is still riding is for races like the Kentucky Derby. He's a Hall of Famer. He's done really well. He's very successful, but he wants to win the Kentucky Derby, and he's hoping that fierceness is that horse. So, it's a big race, not from a gambling standpoint, but it is definitely a big race as we try and start assembling our top 10 lists and things of that nature. Where right now, fierceness is really number one on almost everybody's list, and you're number one until you get knocked off. And so we'll see where this goes and where this moves forward to.
Yeah, because the Holy Bold has, that's out of all the races we're going to talk about, it has the biggest name, so it's unfortunate.
Sure.
Biggest brand, so it's unfortunate that it's not a big race, but it does have maybe the best horse. By the way, Hades, 2 sheet numbers: 21st, 13 second. So big improvement from 20 to 13.
But at the same point, you go 2013, great, ooh la la, and what is fierceness?
Yeah, fierceness. First race was 7. Then had that bad race to 21, and then came back with a 5.
Right. So, you're talking about the line of demarcation for where Hades needs to go. Congratulations, 20 to 13, but you have another move and you need to get to 6, and that's where it's very difficult, and why he is such an overwhelming favorite, even on the morning line, 3 to 5 in the Holy Bull. Like you said, a historic race with a lot of name behind it. He's morning line 3 to 5, the ultimate sign of respect.
Yeah. You think we'll see 1 to 9?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Then race 11, the one obviously before the Holy Bull, the Kittens Joy, another 3-year-old race. Doesn't have the marquee value name, of course, as the Holy Bull, but again, it's a 3-year-old race, and there are 3 favorites, morning line favorites: a Gate Road, Noted, and First World War. That's the 4, the 6, and the 9. 2 Pletcher horses and a Walsh horse, which was First World War. Is that what the battle's going to be against, or do you see any sleepers in the Kitten's Joy?
Look, Noted's grass races are really good. It's Rapoli. You expect to see him back on the dirt one more time, even though he's loaded in this division, and we see fierceness in the next race. His pulpit performance last time, from 7th to 1st, was eye catching. His second in the Bourbon, 2 starts back behind Kangaroo, was very good. The dirt race didn't work out for him. He was cast in the stall early on that morning, but I don't think that had much to do with it, to be honest with you. I think at the end of the day, Noted is the horse to beat. A Gate Road has done nothing wrong and continues to get better. I do like this horse. I like the fact that Jose Ortiz is going to fill in while Irad sticks with Noted. But I'm going to go with a little bit of a price here.
Oh.
With a lightly raced horse, and that's the one horse, Hammerstein.
Okay.
Trainer Brian Lynch is having a phenomenal meet. He won the Fred Hooper last week. He's 15 for 46, 33% at the current Gulfstream meet. He is one hot kangaroo coming over from Australia. And when Brian gets streaky like this, You just kind of you keep backing him until you don't. It's almost like a guy at the craps table. You just keep going until he craps out. So Brian's hot. You have a lot of respect for that. Oscar performance has been a great stallion so far. Really an underrated stallion. He needed that race on the dirt first time out. He looked amazing on the track when he won second time out. Actually, his stablemate was right behind him as well. And you got rewarded. He was a price that day at 6-1, and I thought he looked fantastic. He'd been breezing on the grass at Palm Meadows really impressively before that. He's just a horse that I think the sky is the limit, and you're coming in because of the respect for trainers Todd Pletcher and Brandon Walsh and the performances they've had. They're already more proven. You're getting a big price at 15-1.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to be all over it. Look, I think you have to use those other horses. They're nice horses. But Hammerstein kind of is the fresh face in here at a big price catches my eye.
All right. Now, any chance, this is a turf race, so any chance that any of these horses gets into the Derby mix?
Yes, because it's the Derby, right? And so when we talked earlier on the show about Bob Baffert's owners staying loyal to him and missing the Derby, you have these owners where there's 8 of the 9, since Rapoli has 2 in the race. They could get Derby fever, and when you have a 3-year-old and you're eligible for this race, especially now they raised the purse to $5 million, you don't necessarily think clear. Sometimes things take over, and even if you win on the grass, you say, "Yeah, you won on the grass," but there's always that horse, Animal Kingdom and Big Brown, and horses who had success early in their career as 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds on the turf. They won the Derby. Why not us? The famous Doug O'Neill loves saying, "Why not us? Why not us? Why not now?" So is it possible? 1,000%. You watch this race and you say, well, it's probably a turf horse, but there's always that chance. Especially now you backdoor that you got the Jeff Ruby Stakes, which 2 Phils won last year, and then parlayed that into a second place finish in the Kentucky Derby, where you're almost you're a turf horse, you're admitting you're a turf horse, and you try and backdoor into the Derby in this synthetic race at Turfway Park. So keep an eye on this race maybe being a stepping stone to the Jeff Ruby Stakes at Turfway, which then allows you the option going forward to the Kentucky Derby or confirming you're a turf horse. But it's out there. So you do look. Anyone that's a 3-year-old is eligible for the Kentucky Derby until they're not.
Hammerstein, 28 to an 18. By the way, the 28 was on dirt, of course, and the 18 was on turf. Let's see, a Gate Road, 16 last time out, 14 before that. Actually, yeah, 2 16s and then a 14. Those are the last 3 races. First World War is actually got a pretty nice line, 16, 15, 14, and 14. The 16 and 15 were on turf. And then the final horse being noted, running a 15 on turf last time out, a 17 on turf before that, a 20 before that.
No, and that's the thing. So, like, when we talk about the Holy Bull, where we talked about a horse like Hades and Fierceness, and they were so far apart in the numbers that even with a regression from Fierceness and an improvement from Hades, you still might not get there. Here, you're talking about a lightly raced horse in Hammerstein who took that step forward, dirt to turf, and he only needs to move forward another 2-3 points, which is certainly as they mature and grow up. That's not an impossible thing. Yeah. And you're getting 15-1. So I think he's a horse that's definitely in play when you're comparing things.
Okay. Now let's talk about the one race over in Santa Anita, the 3-year-old race, the Robert B. Lewis. That's race 5, and that's with the Baffert horse, Nisos, the 4-5 shot.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's Santa Anita has kind of been Baffert's playground.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look like things are really going to be much different here. It's a 9-horse field, and I think Baffert has most of the favorites here. He's got Wind Me Up, who's 6-1, who they liked. He was actually much lower odds than Winstock when they ran against each other in the Los Alfreturity last time. He also has Coach Prime in the race, who was very good when he broke his maiden, and he was 4-5 that day in the Los Alfreturity that Winstock won. And then he has Nisos, and Nisos was a horse who, broke his maiden by 10.5 lengths at 6-1 for Baffert. You didn't really see that coming. And then just played with the Bob Hope. It was a 4-horse field, but did it the right way. They wanted to teach him come off the pace a little bit. He
Okay.
did that. He passed the test with flying colors. This has been the natural progression, natural stepping stone as they prepare for the road to the Preakness. And look, Nisos has done nothing wrong. It's difficult to try and take a stab against Nisos when he's literally done absolutely nothing wrong.
Nisos, as far as the sheets are concerned, let's see, where are we? There we go. 9 and a 6. The 9 was last time. You start with a 6. That's damn impressive. That's
You
rare.
start with a six, and you were 6-1 that day for Bob Baffert.
Wow. That's yeah, you're not getting that again. And then you mentioned Coach Prime. Coach Prime 13-13. That's a big difference. 13-13. 16 was on turf. So and what was the other horse?
I mean, you're just worried about Coach Prime.
That's it. Okay.
Is the horse similar to the University of Colorado? To start out with a couple of good performances, and then
Oh,
we're not protecting the quarterback, and we're going the other way.
okay. That is
If
Santa Anita.
That horse was Coach Harbaugh, we might be feeling it a little bit
Yeah, I
better.
think so. Charger fans are pretty happy about him now. All right. So now let's talk about the. We'll break down these two races, starting with the Aqueduct race, the Grade 3 Withers. And this is two. This has got a battle of a couple of horses that are considered they are the morning line favorites. The 3 Light Line, an 8-5 shot, and the 4 El Grande O, the 5-2 shot. But those two horses look like they're beatable. Just taking a look at the sheets, they don't look at anything special. So the question is, if those two horses don't hit, is there a potential nice little sleeper in the mix somewhere?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of either of those horses, to be honest with you. I had a chance to watch Lightline Breeze a few times at Keeneland before his debut, and aside from thinking it was a really dumb name, I know he's by City of Light, and they said it's not like Flightline, but I mean, come on, we know what it's about. I don't really like the horse that much. He won an okay race at Indiana Grand first time out, and then he's come back with a couple of okay seconds, but he was never going to be a winner in either of those races, getting beat 5 and 4 lengths. I don't know what makes him 8-5 in this spot. And El Grande O, while he will be the confirmed front runner in the race, and Kendrick Carmouche is riding as well as anybody in New York, he was looking for the wire going a mile last time. I'm not sure how the extra eighth of a mile plays to his benefit at all, even if he's able to clear, which I don't know that he does. But even if he's able to clear, I think he doesn't really want to go a mile and an eighth. And so if you're going to tell me he's your second choice at 5-2, and I have questions about him getting the distance, I'm going to try and beat him.
Yeah.
And the couple of horses that I landed on here are big prices, and I really feel like kind of disrespectful prices. But the first one, the one I'm going to make my top pick, is going to be the 8-horse Uncle Heavy.
Yeah.
For trainer Butch Reed, shipping in from Parks. He's done this before. He's had success running in New York in the past. Michael Sanchez gives up a lucrative day of races at Tampa, where he would have been on a couple of big favorites in their stake races to stick aboard and ride this horse. I know this is a step up in class. He's been running in Pennsylvania bred company before, but I like his running style. I think he's tactical. Social Inclusion's off to a pretty sneaky okay start because he doesn't have that many foals. He was the one that famously the owner turned down $10 million when he broke his maiden, if you believe the reports, and then ended up in the Preakness. It's cool to see his son now kind of on this trajectory. His win last time visually was better than it looked maybe on the numbers, but I really thought that he ran well that day. And I think he can see out the mile and an eighth distance with no problem. So I'm going to make Uncle Heavy my top selection here, 10-1. The other horse that interests me, and this is just a total wackadoo pick here, but Danny Gargan, who has Dornock, who we talked about earlier on the show, is one of the most conservative trainers I've ever been around. I've owned horses with him before. I've known Danny for a long, long time. He doesn't take chances like this. He doesn't take shots like this. This is a maiden who, he wasn't close yet, but he thinks he wants every bit of the mile and an eighth distance. He thinks he'll run all day. And so I'm just going to think, hey, if he's going to take a swing here and he owns a piece of the horse, Good Magic, obviously, had Mage last year. We know that they seem to see out the distance. Mile and eighth shouldn't be too much of a problem for him. Isaac Castillo's riding pretty good right now in his first winter in New York. Just at a big price, when I don't trust some of these other horses,
Yeah, it's wide
he's
open.
gonna, he's gonna close. And again, if I don't trust Linda's horse, and Brad Cox always trains for speed, so figure Lightline will be more forwardly placed. If the race falls apart, can a horse like Society Man pick up some points and some pieces here at a seemingly very, very big price? I also wouldn't be surprised if Danny Gargan scratches the horse because, again, like I said, this is a very uncharacteristic move for Danny to run this horse in this kind of race as a maiden. He's not one of those guys like you'll see somebody like Doug O'Neill take these kind of chances or
Yeah.
Calumet Storm. He's a very conservative trainer. So I'm certainly interested in seeing what we have to learn from Society Man.
Yeah, the only maiden in the race. And 2 races. The first one was a 29, so that was a disaster. But then a big improvement to 17, which was the third place finish to one who was a speedrunner. Who won the race. Speedrunner's actually the horse that I like in this race, as well as the 8, the one that you mentioned, Uncle Heavy. By the way, Uncle Heavy started with the 14, so that's pretty good. That's a pretty good number. Again, the 6, let's just forget about that. Let's get that out of our minds because it's an incredible way to start your career. But 14 is good. 14 is good, and then you have the 24. So you kind of figure, well, the 14 maybe put a little, maybe a little bounce. I know it's early in his career, but still, that's asking a lot after the 14. Comes right back with a 17. So, and you're getting 10-1. Speedrunner, meanwhile, you've got the Pletcher-Liscano combo. 20 first time out, broke his maiden at a mile and an eighth at Aqueduct, running a 15. That was pretty strong. So that's the reason I'm going to go with Speedrunner and your 8. John, by the way, is going to go with the 3 Lightline. That's his top play over the 1 Speedrunner and the 4 El Grande O. So there you go. And again, Chad's going to 8 over the 6. Now we go to Oaklawn. And again, this is a request from one of our patrons. See how easy it is, guys? All you got to do is request a race, and we will deliver. Let's go with race.
Do we want to briefly talk about the Martha Washington?
Sure, go right ahead.
So the Martha Washington would be the Philly counterpart of the Southwest. These are races, and this is important to note. These races were supposed to be 2 weeks ago, and with the bad weather they had, not only did they cancel ahead of time, but they pushed it back 2 weeks, not just like a couple of days.
Wow.
So some of these horses, you'll see they've been off for a little bit longer than maybe you normally kind of see. Okay. If that makes any sense to you. And so that to me is kind of an interesting thing here. Look, Denim and Pearls is a very nice filly for Brad Cox. She disappointed last time losing to Ice Cold, but I thought she ran okay, and I think she can kind of continue to make that step forward. I'm going to go with a bomb.
Another bomb.
And I don't know if it's the weather. I don't know what's getting into me, but
yeah,
we love seeing the coach, not Coach Brian, but Coach Lucas on the Derby in Oaks Trail. He always seems to have one that he pulls out that just like a magician pulling the rabbit out of his hat. Saratoga's Secret, a daughter of Arrogate, out of a Fort Lawn mare. I think this horse is screaming for at a distance. And you're getting 15-1 on her. Ramon Vasquez rides back. She closed well into the allowance race last time. Coach knows how to win these kind of races. He's had a lot of success with fillies. Of course, we remember him winning the Kentucky Oaks just a few years ago with a daughter of Arrogate. So why can't he do it again with this horse? I'm excited to see Saratoga Secret stretch out, and 15-1 to me is just way too big in this field.
Interesting. All right, there you go. So the Martha Washington, a little bit of a bonus pick there, being a Lucas horse, Saratoga Street, the 6 at 15-1. All right, so let's talk about the Southwest Stakes race, the Grade 3. This is an $800,000 race for 3-year-olds. And in this one, you have, there's a lot of options here. That's why this is a really good race. So great job picking this race. You've got and what's interesting is you got the 1, it looks like you got the 1, the 4, the 5, and the 7 that wants to lead. So that's going to be interesting. But I've got as many as like 6 horses here that I can go with. So let's start with the one, the favorite of the race, the morning line favorite, who could bounce, and that's Maycox Bay, because Maycox Bay did nothing really last year except the 17. First race this year, which was last month, ran an 11. That's a 6-point top, 11 better than the previous two races, which were 22s. So I could
Look,
easily see this horse bouncing.
but here's the problem. Okay, he had Lasix that day. He doesn't have Lasix today,
Okay.
and it was an off the turf race. So he ran against a bunch of turf horses. Like, I mean, I'm sorry. I don't know where that race came from, but if you take out that race and you
Yeah.
just show the rest of his races,
Yes.
you don't want him in your top three.
No.
And so I understand there's room for growth, and I understand that Mike Stidham does a really good job, but I'm not sure he really wants to go uh, that far. I know he won a mile 70 the other day, but again, that was off the turf. I just don't see it. He made the lead last time in relatively slow fractions. He's going to have to work a lot harder, and from the rail, that's not necessarily the post you want to be in when you have to work hard. So he's going to have to lay down and do all the dirty work if he's going to be victorious. And I'm just against him in this spot. There's too many things that kind of go against him in this situation. So
Yep.
I'm against Maycox Bay here. If he beats me, he beats me.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, Godolphin obviously is on a roll. Breeder of the year, owner of the year on the Eclipse Awards. I think the last 2 years, looking for the three-peat, but I don't think it comes with Maycox Bay. I'm against this horse here. I think he bounces. I'm with you. I think he's going to bounce.
Nothing to like about Charleston, the two horse. The three
I mean,
horse.
it's just the sheer curiosity as to why the heck he's in the race, but that doesn't make me want to bet on him.
Yeah,
I'm just curious as
pretty
to why he's in
much.
the race.
The three, Magic Grant. Now, the good thing about the three compared to the two is he's gotten better each race on the sheets. He's gone from a 30 to a 19 to a 17. He's a closer, too. So, if anything happens with those, those four horses battling for the lead and they go with a freaky pace. But anyway, it's still asking a lot. 17 was the last time out, which was.
Well, I mean, the thing with Magic Grant, for whatever it's worth, and it's you tell me what you think about this kind of theory or whatever, but he's 2 months behind Out of the Conqueror last time out, right? Out of the Conqueror is 5-1. Magic Grant's 30-1, and it was only a 2 length difference. It wasn't like
Yes,
20
that is
lengths apart
true.
from.
And by
So
the way, Otto the Conqueror ran a 17 in the same race.
right.
Just the
So I
same
mean,
number as Magic Grant.
if you like Out of the Conqueror, I think you don't have to eliminate Magic Grant. He looks a little slow on paper. He's from a trainer that not a lot of people know about, but the guy in limited starters was 22% last year. So he certainly had some success. Willis Horton Racing. It was an Arkansas guy that loved racing. So I'm sure the family's really going to be watching this race with great anticipation. You pick up a jockey in Chris Landeros that he's not afraid of the big stage. He's not impossible at 30-1. I mean, I like him more than Charlestown.
All right. Well, yeah. Let's absolutely not even close. The 4 is Otto the Conqueror, the 5-1 shot, Asmussen and Rosario combo. Now, before the 17, everything was going great for Otto the Conqueror. 21, 18, 12, but the horse bounced. That's what you got, and still won the race, by the way, running the 17. So you're expecting now the horse to get back on the right track. 5-1 is not necessarily bad. So yeah, this is a live horse to me.
Look, he's hasn't done much wrong and started his career being ridden by Keith Asmussen, and then went to Tyler Gaffalone and now Joel Rosario. The one thing that Joel Rosario brings to the table is you think he's probably not going to be rushing to the lead. So in a race that has a lot of speed set up in it, I like having Joel Rosario aboard the horse because he's not going to panic and push and drive the horse early and maybe use too much of the horse early on in the race. So good job by Steve Asmussen reaching out to Joel Rosario to ride this horse. I know he was supposed to ride this horse last week and gave up some good opportunities across the world to ride this one. So hopefully he made the right decision. But I have no problem with the horse. I understand that the sheet number maybe wasn't the best, and sometimes the sheet numbers work out. I mean, there's not a better example than First Mission, who we talked about on our Pegasus preview show last week, who the numbers said he was slow, and we kept wanting to give him excuses, and he ran like a horse that was too slow. Maybe Out of the Conqueror needs to get faster, but this race isn't the Holy Bull, and
True.
so in that situation, if he can get back to the 13, it might be enough to win the race.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
The 5, that's the Baffert horse, Winstock. And Winstock is a horse you got to keep an eye on because the sheets are positive here. 24, 24. Okay, nothing great there. Two duds. But the last 2 races were 16 and 15. Both wins.
Yeah, I don't like the fact that it was a 5 horse field. He's trained by Hall of Fame trainer Bob Baffert. He's owned by the people that own the racetrack in Los Alamitos, and he sent off at 13-1 in their premier race for 2 year olds last time. I know he won. Kyle Frey seems to get along good with this horse. I'm glad that they keep Kyle aboard the horse for the next race because he seems to have this horse's hold card. But I'm not going to go from 13-1 when you break your maiden for Bob Baffert, 13-1 when you win the race at the home track of the owner.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to double down on you
At
when
4 to
you're
1.
running in Arkansas. No matter how much success Bob Baffert has had in these Arkansas races, these road to the Triple Crown races in Arkansas, running horses that he liked in the past, horses like Charlton, horses like American Pharaoh. But for me, this is somebody else's money. I'm not going with Winstock, and I don't really know how far he wants to go. So I'm going to pass on Winstock.
All right, one of the better sheet lines in the race, if not the best, is Liberal Arts at 8-1. 29, 21, 19, 17, and 14. So this horse just keeps getting better and better every race. Won a grade 3 race last time out at Churchill. So yeah, 8-1 you're getting, especially if you could still get 8-1. I mean, I really like to. I like this horse. Hopefully, you get 8-1.
Look, for people that don't know, trainer Robert Medina, he was assistant, long time assistant to Shug McGahee. He's been on the Derby Trail before. He's been draped in the roses with the Orb back in 2006, I think. He knows what he's doing. So um, nothing to sneeze at here. It's a ship. He's stabled in Kentucky. He's training at the Thoroughbred Center. Going to ship to Arkansas. I wish he would have had a work over the track. And we'll see what he does. 2 to 3. His numbers aren't great off a similar kind of a freshening. I think this is a stepping stone. Look to see him kind of improve from here. I don't know that today is the day for him. But he's certainly an intriguing horse down the road to see what happens.
Carbone, another Steve Asmussen horse here. Now Carbone has only 2 races, but hey, you start with a 13. That's strong. 15 last time out, no big deal. Coming off the 13, that could be expected. Both wins, 9-2 shot.
I think Asmussen puts Rosario on the better horse. We see him on Out of the Conqueror over Ricardo Santana riding Carbone. Even though Ricardo has been aboard for both of these races, he can get flattered earlier on in the day if Lightline were to win the Withers, because Lightline was second to him last time they raced against each other in the allowance race. I still have my reservations on Matoli's wanting to truly stretch out, and so for that reason, I'm gonna pass on him, despite the fact that he has pretty good numbers going into this race.
All right. By the way, I forgot to give John's pick for the Kittens Joy, so I'm going to save that when we're done with this race. So make everybody tune in for that. All right. The 8 is Common Defense, the McPeak horse. Looks a little too slow. We just talked about a 13-15 horse. This one's a 19-18 horse.
And again, I mean, he improved first time Lasix. The Lasix comes off today. He needs to continue to improve if he's going to do it. But no, look, Francisco Arrieta rode him first time. Kristen Torres rode him second time. He isn't able to attract either of those jockeys to ride. Julian Leperoux picks up instead. So I don't like when these jockeys are bailing off the horses. So I'm going to pass on him.
All right, now how about this? This one is a long shot. Linebacker at 30-1, because just the first 2 races are 14 and 12. I mean, that's very good for the first 2 races. The last race was a disappointing 20, but still finished in second place. I know he hasn't broken his maiden yet, but this horse was an even money shot last time. Now he's 30-1.
and gotten beat by some good horses. A Goo that won the first race came back and won the Bowman's Mill for Kentucky for Whit Beckman. Legalized that beat him in the second start. He came back and won a stake race at Fairgrounds, and then he actually runs in the Swale on Saturday for Cherie DeVoe. So he's kept himself in good company. But again, I don't know how far he really wants to go. When he stretched out last time to the mile and a 6:10 distance that we're going to see today at Oaklawn, he was second, but he was beaten 5 3/4 lengths.
Sure.
They put the blinkers on maybe to have him show a little bit more interest early on. He tends to kind of get lost early on, and there's a chance that he can move forward in this race. But I don't think this is Ray Lewis, so I'm going to pass on
This
this line.
this horse wants they want to close with this horse, right?
I mean, I think they want to have him just a little bit more. I mean, he backs up just a little too much early. I think they want
Stalk him.
to have him, yeah, a little bit more of a stalking role. But the workouts have basically kind of stayed the same. You don't see like a popped workout, where maybe they put the blinkers on and he really showed something in the morning time. So I think this is not the linebacker for me.
And the thing that I would also be against is the worst race happened to be at the same track. Sometimes the horse doesn't like the track. We don't know. All right. Next up, the 10, Mystic Dan. So this is a McPeak Hernandez combo at 12-1. Started 15-12. That's very strong. Second and first. Then had a 22. Not sure what happened there, except the fact that the 12 was just 3 weeks prior, or actually 2 weeks prior. So maybe you can understand the 22. Then came back to the 15 after a couple of months off, and that was at Oaklawn, the fifth last two races. So that doesn't really hit you. It's the sheets that intrigue you at 12-1.
Yeah, I mean, uh, it's just not necessarily my cup of tea, but we'll see what happens with him.
Just Steel is the 11 and 8-1 shot. Another D. Wayne Lucas horse. So this horse has run 8 times already, coming off a 13. Had a 10 last November and a 10 last August. So that's fast. And the last 2 races are a 10 and a 13.
When he broke his maiden, I don't think he was the best horse in the race at all. I think Locke was much better than he was that day. Just Locke had a little bit of an unfortunate trip, and his win 2 back was sprinting, going 6.5. His maiden breaking score was 6 furlongs.
Yep.
He very well might end up being a turf horse down the line, being by Justify out of a Fastnet Rock mare. Look, it's Lucas, and he loves these kind of races. And I know I picked Lucas in the Martha Washington, and he's kind of been certainly the most raced horse in the field. This will be start number 9 for him. I don't see how he makes up the 8 lengths that he got beat by Out of the Conqueror in the allowance race 3 starts back. He hasn't shown yet that next year. I know he won the race after, but that was back sprinting, and I don't necessarily think that he's this kind against this group.
And the last horse is Awesome Road, the 12. That's the Brad Cox trained horse. Giroux on board. 16, then 25, then back to a 17. The results don't look too good the last 2 races after breaking his maiden right away with that 16 in August. So Awesome Road, Brad Cox.
Yeah, he's cross-entered in the race on Friday night in Turfway.
Okay.
So we'll see if he runs Friday or Saturday. He was entered, I think, last week in the race, or 2 weeks ago in the race in Fairgrounds, and scratched out of there. For me, I don't like indecision. I know there's things of keeping your options open. I know he's a $600,000 purchase. I know Giroux is named on this one, but I'm not a fan of this one though.
All right. So I'm gonna go with the 6, that Liberal Arts horse, and I'm gonna throw in 2 long shots with the 4, Otto the Conqueror, with an exacta. That's the Magic Rant 30-1 and the Linebacker 30-1. but I like the 6 Liberal Arts with that sheet line. John is going with the 11. He's going with Just Steel. He's going with Dwayne Lucas. How about that? Dwayne Lucas has 2 wins this meet, and both of you guys are picking him in races. What are the odds of Lucas winning one of those 2 races? Well, we hope so. John is going with the 11 over the 6, 7, 9, and 10.
Wow, no 4, huh?
No 4 for John. Okay. What do you like, Chad?
Makes me want to double down. I'll take the 4 out of the Conqueror. I think it's an open race. I'm not going to get cute with exactas and tries, but I'm going to take out of the Conqueror. Steve Asmussen is on his way on this Triple Crown Trail. Him and Brad Cox seemingly winning everything on the East Coast. We'll see the West Coast variety and Bob Baffert, who wins everything on the West Coast. I would say one of those 3 trainers probably wins this race because they win every race on the Derby Trail. I'm going to go with Steve Asmussen and Otto the Conqueror.
All right. So next week, as we continue into February, of course, this being the first February race.
Tampa.
Yeah, Tampa. Sam F. Davis. The grade 3 3-year-old race in Tampa. And there's the only other races out there would be the Palos Verdes. That's a grade 3 at Santa Anita. But yeah, the Sam F. Davis, hopefully that'll be a good field, and that'll be the marquee race of our week next week. So, sure. Chad, appreciate it. It's been a long night. Thanks for doing this, as always. And I look forward to talking to you again next week.
See you in Dubai next week.
All right, man. See ya. All right, so I'm going to wrap things up with the rest of just a recap of the picks. All right, so let's including John's pick at the Kittens Joy. All right, so let's go. Let's see, what order do I want to go with? Tell you what, let's go start with the Gulfstream. Okay. Well, no, not yeah. Actually, yeah, I can do Gulfstream, right? Yes, because that was Kittens Joy race. Okay, we all know about fierceness. Okay, he's going to win the Holy Bowl. But in the Kittens Joy, again, race 11. Chad's going with the 1 in that race. Do I have that up here? He's going with the 1 in that race. Hammerstein. That's right. That's the 15-1 shot. Hammerstein. John's going with the 6 over the 4, 5, 9. All right, so John is going to go with. John's going with First World War. So he's going with the Brandon Walsh horse. And then 4, 5, 9 after that. A Gate Road. All right. Deadpan. And then the 9, Noted. All right. So that's the Kitten's Joy at Gulfstream. Let's now move on to Santa Anita, which we really don't have to talk about because that's Mysos, the 4 to 5 shot. But let's now take our... actually, let's go to Aqueduct after that. The Withers. So John again went with the 3 over the 1, 4. Chad went with the 8 over the 6 as a long shot. The 6 being the long shot. But Chad's going with the 8. John's going with the 3 and the Withers. Oaklawn. Race 9. The bonus race there. The, what is that? The Martha Washington. Chad's going with that long shot Lucas horse, the 6. And then in this race we just talked about, once again, John's going 11 over 6, 7, 9, 10. I'm going 6 over 3, 4, 9. Chad is going with the 4, Otto the Conqueror. So that's it. It's been a long day. Long day. Right now it's close to 10 o'clock at night. Woke up early because we were thinking of doing this at 9 o'clock in the morning. And we wound up doing it almost at 9 o'clock at night. So, but hey, it's in. And we will post this, of course, on our Patreon page first. So this is why anybody out there that has yet to invest the $5 a month, I'm not sure what you're waiting for, because this is important too, right? So we do not always provide the entire video. Most of the time, we'll just give you the picks, and we're going to leave out, because I think Chad and I must have talked for about 15, 20 minutes about just what's going on in the industry. A lot of that you're not going to get on YouTube. You're going to get on Patreon. You just want the picks. You're willing to wait a couple of days. Sometimes it's not even going to be on YouTube. That's up to you. But for $5 a month, you get every video every Thursday, just about, and you get the entire videos and all the pics and all the news and everything. So anyway, description, check that out. That's where the link is to sign up on our Patreon page for $5 a month. If you don't like it, you want to move on, cancel, you're done. $5. That's all you have to invest. And don't forget also to please subscribe to our YouTube horse racing channel, which is, of course, it's called Horsepower PSN. And of course, if you're already a subscriber to Prime Sports Network, we appreciate that as well. And don't forget to like and share. If you have any questions or comments, you can let us know in the comments section. And you can let us know if you want to race to handicap. Of course, especially if you're a Patreon member, you have a race that you want us to handicap, let us know. And if we don't go in detail about the race, I'll at least get these guys to give you, their opinion as far as a pick. And we'll just get it in there for you, like we were able to do that on today's show. So that's going to wrap it up. Again, John couldn't do it. It was a late day for him. But we'll get back to John next week. And again, thanks to Chad for hanging in there for a late night. And we'll see everybody next week.